Right. Configuring advanced EIGRP option. This protocol EIGRP can be much scalable if we follow some good practices like summarization. That is a good practice. When we do summarization, what happens? The number of updates that will be flooded can be reduced. When the updates are reduced, bandwidth consumption is getting reduced. Not only that, the routers that process update will also be utilizing the processor lesser. See, this is a routing protocol. We do not want routing protocol to make our router too busy. We want the router to be busy in forwarding our traffic, not in processing EIGRP packet. EIGRP packets are important. EIGRP updates are important, but the reason why we want EIGRP is to provide a route for our packets to go. So if EIGRP will become a burden for routers, then the routing protocol is not a good protocol. So we need a protocol which will consume less amount of bandwidth, less process, at the same time more helpful for routing. We want a routing protocol which is lightweight and effective. To make EIGRP as a lightweight and effective protocol, the protocol which will consume less processor, the protocol that will not keep disturbing the routers, the protocol that will consume less amount of bandwidth, we need to do summarization. EIGRP route summarization. I showed you the two different versions of EIGRP and the differences. One difference we saw that newer version can support both IPv6 and IPv4 under one EIGRP process. Whereas in the older version, we use autonomous system number and we need to configure IPv6 separate, IPv4 EIGRP separate. The other big difference is in the newer version of EIGRP, the route summarization is not automatic. In the older versions, EIGRP summarization is automatic. In the newer version of EIGRP, it is not automatic. We have to do summarization manually. Now there are two different types of summarization EIGRP supports. Now let us not get into the newer version of EIGRP. Let us focus on what it is said in this presentation. In the older version, still many people run the older version of EIGRP. In the older version, summarization is automatic. The purpose of summarization is to get a small routing table and smaller updates. Smaller the routing table, more quicker, more faster the switching process, the switching of packet will be. As I said, EIGRP does the summarization It summarizes to a class full network. For example, if you have like 172.16.1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, many up to 255.0, let's say. All these 255 networks can be summarized to class full/16 boundaries. So instead of sending 255 network information, we just send one summarized route 172.16.00/16. So the amount of bandwidth consumed to send the update, the amount of bandwidth that is going to consume while we send the update is going to be less. We are not going to advertise or information about every single subnet. We send summarized. So the updates are smaller. Not only that, the receiving router's routing table will also be smaller. So this is very big advantage actually. Not only that, this is not the only advantage. If this network goes down, let's say 172.16.4.0, when this network goes down, because we have summarized all these network as this, when a small subnet goes down, the neighbor routers will never get disturbed. Why? There won't be any update for this. When will an update send? Only when all this goes down, this will be removed and an update will be sent that saying network down. So when a small subnet goes down, there won't be any update. What is the advantage? We don't unnecessarily disturb the neighbor router. Now you may say that the neighbor router may need that information. See, if neighbor router needs that subnet information, then we should not summarize. In most of the cases, we will see that there won't be a need for us to send every small updates. They're not frequent talkers. They don't frequently talk. So this router may not be interested in knowing about this one small network going down. It may be unnecessary to send this small update, because this router is not a frequent talker to this network. Not a frequent talker. So in such occasion, it is good to summarize. Summarization reduces the number of updates, reduces the size of the routing table in the neighbor's router's routing table. So this is one type of summarization which is on by default in EIGRP. We call it as auto summarization. Why? Because this happens automatically. Continue. So this is automatic summarization. In order to cancel that, we used to say no auto summary. When you do this, then there won't be summarization. But there is also another type of summarization which we do under interface. This summarization that we saw is not under the interface, it is under the router mode. It is under router EIGRP mode. But this summarization which I am talking about, we call it as manual summarization. This is done per interface basis. It's not global, it's per interface. Say for example, I need some space. Okay, let me take this space. For example, if I have a router which has got some networks like 10.1.1.0/24, 10.1.1.2.0/24, 10.1.3.0/24, and if I want to summarize and send it to this neighbor and also to this neighbor, if you want to send just like this 10.0.0/8, 10.0.0/8, if that is my aim, then I no need manual summarization. There is no need for manual summarization. Auto summarization is more than enough. Automatic summarization will do this. But if my aim is to send a summary route only to one of my neighbor, R2 needs to receive the summary route in its routing table, whereas R3 should receive all the subnets. Only in this scenario, I need to go under this interface. See here on the router, I'll say no auto summary. When I do this, all the interface will be sent with the detailed subnets. But I'll just go to this interface where R2 is connected, let's say Ethernet 0. I'll go to that interface and say I want the route to be sent like this. This is what we call it as manual summarization. Only on that interface you want to send a summary route. On the other interfaces, you may have many other interfaces, R4, you may have many other interfaces like Ethernet 1, Ethernet, where you do not want summarization. So you can simply say no auto summary, so that R3 and R4 will receive a detailed route. And only on those links where the summarization is needed, in our case the link E0 is what I need to summarize, because R2 should not learn all the detailed routes, because R2 may not have enough processing capability. So I go under the interface and I do manual summarization. That is what mentioned here. Summarization is capable on per interface basis in any router within the network. Okay, when I do manual summarization, what will happen? There will be a route in the routing table pointing towards null 0 interface. You see, this is a summary route that I write, but it's a summary route of many networks which is on the physical interface. Let's say this is F0, F1, F2. Now I'm summarizing these three networks like this, 10.0.0.0. So this is common subnet, summarized one. This is a common summarized route for these three interface networks. So it cannot point towards fast Ethernet 0 or 1 or 2. It should point towards a neutral interface, a dummy interface. That's why it is pointing towards null 0. If it point towards any of this interface, then sometime packet will come here and this will forward here, this will forward here. It will cause loop. So what EIGRP is designed to do is EIGRP will point towards the null interface. When a summarization is configured on an interface, the router immediately creates a route pointing towards null. Why it point towards null? Why not any physical interface? It is to prevent loop. Now, when will be the summary route go away? Only when all the specific routes for which the summarization is done goes away. So, in our example, the summary route advertisement will stop going only if all these three links goes down. If any one link goes down, still the summarization is valid. Right. So now what will be the metric of the summary route? If I am summarizing, let's say the metric on this is 10, the metric on this is 12, the metric on this is 20. What will be the metric of this summary? It will be 10. Yep. So I'm sorry. This summary is summary of these three network, but they all have different metric. Which one will be the metric of the summary? It's the minimum one. Minimum one. You can see that, the minimum metric of the specific route is used as the metric of the summary route. Please ask me any question if you have from this page.
No, I understand it so far. You're going to summarize, it's going to be a per space.
Yeah.
So, I understand.
Yeah. So we got two types of summarization. One is automatic summarization. The other one is manual summarization. See, automatic summarization, it is done in the router mode. If you want to cancel it, we say no auto summary. Manual summarization is per interface. So we go under the interface and use this command summary address, EIGRP, and then the autonomous system number, and then how you want to summarize it. Right? Here is an example. In all this router, we just type no auto summary so that detailed route will be sent. But we go under the serial interface and we summarize this 172.16.1, 172.16.2 as 172.16.00/16. As a result, router C will see these two subnets, but it will send only the summary route out to the world. Only this summary will be sent. Right? So when you do summarization, the summary route will be pointing towards null 0. Both auto summarization as well as the manual summarization, only the summary routes will point towards null interface, that is to prevent loop. It cannot point towards this is also 10, this is also 10. It cannot point towards serial or fast Ethernet. It should point towards the common interface. That's why it is picking null interface. See, the dual algorithm. This will be seen dynamically created into the routing table whenever we do summarization. Right. So this chapter has got many topics. One of the topic, the advanced topic that we should know in EIGRP is summarization. Let's do a small demo on what we have learned. And then if time permits, we'll go to the second topic. Between router 1 and 2, I would like to take some network like 10.12.0.0/16. 10.13.0.0/16. Let me start the configuration from router 1. Config T interface loopback. Interface loopback 1. Interface loopback 2. Done. Verify show IP interface brief. Right, I have like 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all different host as well as different network because it's /32. Now let us go to the physical interfaces on R1. Physical interfaces are GZ3/0 and 4/0. Interface G3/0, 10.12.0.1. Interface G4/0, 10.13.0.1. Done. See, this is a newer operating system. This will be running newer EIGRP. So the summarization will not be seen default. What we learned in the presentation is summarization is automatic, but that will be applicable only for older versions like 12.4 iOS version. This one which I am running is 15.x show IP, show version. The version that I am running is 15 dot something. It's 15.1. Advanced IP service pack. So this is not an older one. Only the older one will do automatic summarization. See, I'm going to run EIGRP. Though it is a newer version of operating system, I'm using the traditional way of configuring EIGRP. Router EIGRP 10. This is a traditional way instead of using number. This and summarization has got no connection. And now I'm going to say network 1000, network 10.0.0.0. See, I'm not saying no auto summary. I'm not saying it. Usually in older versions, the routers will do summarization by default. So we used to say no auto summary to cancel it. But here, this version will not do summarization. See, show IP protocol. The summarization is disabled in this version. We have to do it if you want. By default it is disabled. So I'm not typing that command no auto summary. Let me go to now router 2 and configure the basic IP addresses followed by EIGRP. Interface G3/0, IP address 10.12.0.2, and then EIGRP router EIGRP 10 network 10.0.0.0. I'm not saying any no auto summary. A neighbor will come up now. I already see a neighbor. This is router 1's address. Now, when I type this command show IP route, I can see now the detailed routes. They are not summarized. The newer version will not do summarization by default. No dynamic summarization by default. Anyway, let's finish router 3 and then we'll come back and do something new. Manual summarization we'll do after finishing router 3 configuration. Interface G3/0, no shit. Interface G, okay, sorry. IP address 10.13.0.13 252500. And then router EIGRP 10 network 10.0.0. Done. I'm expecting a neighbor now. Yes, you see, router 3 has also formed a neighbor with router 1. And when I check the routing table, show IP route, I'm seeing all the detailed routes from R1's loopback. This clearly shows that the auto summarization is not on by default in this version. Even in R3 I can show you, show IP protocol, you can see disabled. Now going back to router 1, to enable the summarization, how do you enable summarization? Globally, if you want to enable, not just for one neighbor. If you want to enable summarization, if you want to send the summary route to all neighbors, you need to do global summarization like this. Auto summary. Now if you go back and check the same command show IP protocol, you can see it says auto summarization is enabled and it is summarizing the networks on these loopbacks and it is sending on all the 10 interface. Right? It is summarizing like this and sending it on G3/0 and G4/0. Right? So now if you go back to router 2 and check the routing table, earlier we were having detailed route, but now you got only a summary route coming, even in R3. A summary route. But you can ping the detailed route 1.1.1.1.1.4. I'm able to ping. But we don't have a detailed route, we got a summary route. It is good, you still have reachability. Now let's go to our scenario. What is our scenario? It is a slight change here. 1.2. That's what I configured. Okay, what is that we want? We want this router with the detailed routes. We want router 3 to learn routes in detail without any summarization. Whereas router 2 should learn a summary route like this 1.1.0.0/16. How can we achieve this? It's very simple. First we need to go to router 1. Before I do anything, let me show you the current status. Show IP protocol, the summarization is enabled. I have to cancel it first. Router EIGRP 10, no auto summary. I say don't do summarization automatically. Now, if you check router 3, the task is achieved. You see, we got a detailed routes. That's what we want in router 3. But on router 2, we don't want this. We don't want to see this. Then what I should do is a manual summarization. I need to go to R1's G3/0 interface, this interface. That is what connects to router 2. Before I do anything, I want to show you the routing table. Show IP route. You see there is no route pointing towards null 0. Do you see any null 0 mentioned in this routing table? No. But after summarization, I'll bring you here. Interface G3/0. See, this is the interface that connects to router 2. And I say IP summary address for EIGRP 10. Summarize like this 1.1.0.0 255.255.0. Summarize like this. So we call it as manual summarization, which we used to do only on the interface. So that the neighbor connected on that interface alone will get the summary route. As soon as I hit enter, it is resyncing with the neighbor, because earlier it was sending detail updates. Now it should send only the summary route. I also said that R1's routing table should have a summary route pointing towards null 0. Look at this. A summary route /16, exactly that is what I mentioned on the interface. And it is pointing towards null 0. It cannot point towards this interface because that summarization belongs to all these 4 interfaces. So it has to point towards a null interface. That is what will avoid loop. Now, if I'll take you to router 2, earlier we saw the detailed route, but now on R2, I got a summary route, and it is exactly as I expected. I want 16, I got 16. Whereas on R3 there is no change. On R3, same like before, you get a detailed route. So if your requirement is this, that one of the neighbors should get a summary route, the other one should have a detailed route, or all should have a detailed route, and one of your neighbor or few of your neighbor only needs a summary route, then you may use this manual summarization and auto summarization in mixer in together. Is the demo clear for you?
Yes, understand.
Right. So the only configuration I did is I went under the interface G3/0 and I put this command IP summary address for EIGRP 10. Summarize like this while you send the updates out on this interface. Okay. So what we saw is summarization is good. It reduces the routing table size. It also reduces the number of updates that will be sent. It improves the efficiency of our network. because the routing table is going to be smaller, the updates sent will be small, and when a small subnet goes down, no updates will be sent. As a result, the other routers are not, neighbors are not unnecessarily disturbed. That improves the efficiency of our network. And the manual summarization is per interface. And when we configure a manual summarization, the summary route will be generated in the routing table pointing towards null 0. And this is because we cannot point to a interface, physical interface. We cannot point towards any interface because summarization is the summary of many networks from various interfaces. So it should point towards a null interface so that it can prevent loop. And also we learned that only when the last specific route of the summary goes away, the summary will be deleted. Otherwise it will be there. If when one subnet goes down, it will not be deleted. And the metric, if you have different metrics from different specific subnets that we have summarized, the metric of the specific route, the smallest metric of the specific route, the minimum metric of the specific route will be used as the metric of the summary route. Right, if you want to cancel summarization or enable summarization, we need to use auto summary. To enable, to cancel, you put no auto summary in the router mode. That will impact globally all the neighbors. And then if you want one particular neighbor to summarize, you need to go under the interface and put this command as we did in our lab. So we did this type of, similar to this, we have done an example. Now our next topic will be load balancing. I think we should do this in another day, but I just want to give you an introduction. EIGRP supports equal cost load balancing as well as unequal cost load balancing. But by default, every protocol, EIGRP also supports only equal cost load balancing. If you wish to enable unequal cost load balancing, which can also be enabled in EIGRP, we need to use a special command called variance. Right. Before getting into those unequal cost load balancing, how many paths can be used for load balancing? By default, up to 4 paths can be used for load balancing. That is by default. But if you wish to increase it, you can increase it up to 32. You can have up to 32 entries in the routing table for same destination. By default 4, you can increase up to 32 in the newer versions. If you want to disable, if you want to do only one path, I do not want to do load balancing, then you can set that number. There's a command called max path where you can set between 1 to 32. If you say 1, no load balancing whatsoever. If you say 32, you can have up to 32 paths for the same destination if metric is similar, which is equal cost. For unequal cost, if you change the variance, then you can have up to 32. If you want to cancel, you may need to set 1 to disable load balancing. So with this we stop here.